Weather is one of the biggest factors in bass fishing, and it's a factor that we cannot control. A lot of people get discouraged when they have the opportunity to go fish in post-frontal conditions. Today in this video, we are going to try to change that. We're going to go over how to fish areas and what lures to throw in post-frontal conditions in the early winter throughout winter to the spring to help you catch more fish and put bigger fish in the boat. Good fish. Stay in the boat. Hey, there we go right there, guys. Here we go, guys, a lipless crankbait fish right there. Hey, one of the biggest misconceptions I believe in fishing this time of year is on post-run conditions is just to go out to the lake and fish slow. Like I said, hey, I just caught this fish right here. I just lost a bigger fish right down the way. But like I said, hey, I am moving, trying to find them. Hey, these fish are eating. And like I said, it was just 2-3 days ago, 70 degrees and I was in shorts. Now here we are, it's 40 degrees. It was actually 32 degrees this morning. Let's put this fish right back in the water and go see if we can go get another one. If you're one of those anglers that I know that work 4 to 5 days a week and you don't have a chance to get on the water, and then you get out there on a Saturday or Sunday, Mother Nature makes an appearance, and then all of a sudden you have this post-frontal day to fish. It can be very frustrating and hard to fish if you don't have a plan of action. I know for me, I got taught get a jig out, get your shaky head out, get your drop shot out, fish really slow and stay on the bottom because the bass are lethargic and hard to catch. We're about to dig into why that's not always the case. I've had very success of throwing a jig and fishing really slow, but let's get into how I go after first the areas of the lake, and then we're going to get into the baits that I like to throw in these areas. I will share with you my process to select areas after a front. There are 2 directions with this process. The first direction is if you have a limited time to fish. For me today, I only had 3 hours. Then the second plan of action is if you have a full day to fish. I came up with this plan from time I've accumulated on the water and also studying how professionals fish. When the Major League Fishing format came out in 2011, I would watch every episode and study how the best would attack new bodies of water without practice. I was always shocked how they would get a 30-minute ride around and then come up with a plan of action to catch fish. When I know I have limited amount of time on the water, I want to select an area that I can figure out as fast as I can. This area cannot be one of the biggest creeks in the lake, so I'll start off by looking for smaller creeks that are near the main lake. These creeks need to have a true defined creek channel that is on your topo map. The reason I select a smaller creek is because I can fish sections of it fast. In these creeks, I look for cover that the bass can be holding on that I can pattern at other areas of the lake. I look for rock, timber, grass, and brush piles just to name a few pieces of cover. Then I look at the obvious areas in the creeks. Your main lake points, secondary points, humps. Also look for changes in bank composition, such as rock transitions. Today for me, rock transition was a key. In the first creek today, I started in the back and I had no success. Then I went to the mouth, caught a fish off of the main lake point. I went to the next creek, caught 2 little fish in the middle of the creek. One was on a rock transition, the other was on a bank near the transition. I then went to a little bit bigger size creek, started in the middle looking for rock transitions. I found 2 different sets of rock transitions, and then I also, with this, found 2 schools of bass related to the rock transitions. Now as you hear this, I am fishing pretty fast. I know my time is limited, and I want to be able to make a lot of casts and put myself in position to be able to find fish. There we go, hey, nice. Nice fish. Like I said, just another reason why, hey, after fishing the cold front, you don't got to slow down. Hey, you can fish them reaction moving baits. Try to figure out which one is the fish you're eating that day. Right now, for me, it's a lipless crankbait. Like I said, a beautiful fish right there. I'm gonna let it go. Now, if you get a whole day to fish, then this process starts by selecting a creek or just a section of the lake. Then your goal is to break that area down. You're going to want to try to figure out what the fish are doing in this part of the lake or the creek. You have more time available, so for me, I would use my electronics more during this process to figure out the depth of the bait fish and then check the obvious areas with my electronics. If I'm fishing a creek, I'm going to pick a section to start in. You have the mouth, the middle, or the back. Typically for me this time of year, I'm starting in the back of the creek. But if this creek has standing timber and is not that easy to navigate, then I will go ahead and start at the mouth just because it's a more reliable option and to not waste as much time. I'm still going to take my time, as I know I have more time to fish, but I am going to try to cover a lot of water and use reaction style baits to determine the piece of cover, the area, and the depth that the bass are in. For me, checking off all three of these boxes is a hard accomplished feat if I'm fishing really slow. If I'm fishing slower moving baits, I'm not utilizing my time effectively to find the fish. I am a numbers guy, so for me, using a faster moving style bait, I get to make more casts, I get more chances to get bites, and then with that, I have a higher chance of figuring out what the bass are doing. Now, once I do locate fish, either with a reaction style lure or with even with my electronics, then it can be time to slow down to catch them if that's what we need to do. Now, after hearing the process, let's go back into the boat to go over the type of lures that I use in the post-frontal conditions.
Really quick, I want to let you guys know about the Black Friday deals that are happening right now on fishthemoment.com. If you head to our website and check out the Black Friday page, you're going to see that we have 40 to 45% off all of our Fish the Moment Sonar settings guides. These guides are my personal settings for all these different fish finders that I spent months figuring out to give you the clearest and best image of both cover and fish on these different fish finders. Instead of wasting hours and hours trying to figure out all the settings yourself, get these sonar guides and you're going to have the fast track to getting crystal clear images on your fish finder right away. We also published a brand new product, the Fish the Moment Sonar Interpretation Guide, which has images of what fish look like, different species of fish, different species of bait, cover, structure, all these different things that you can use to interpret what you're seeing on your fish finder. Don't be confused about what you're seeing on your screen anymore. Use these example images to know exactly what you're looking for and what you're looking at so you can put more fish in the boat this upcoming year. Now back to the video.
So I'm going to have a variety of lures on the deck of the boat when fishing post-frontal conditions. And like I mentioned earlier, I'm trying to get a reaction strike. I'm trying to throw a moving bait that's going to deflect off rock, wood, or if you do have grass in your lake, underwater grasses, hydrilla, milfoil, I'm trying to throw a bait that will move, deflect off the cover, and create a reaction strike. Like one thing I didn't mention earlier, when you are fishing slow, like I said, if there is a fish right there, they might not want to eat it, and it gives them more time to look at it. When you're throwing a moving bait, such as this right here, this is the Rapala OG Slim, when the Ott Defoe's, one of his custom design lures. When you're throwing lures like this that move, that doesn't really give the fish enough time to look at it, so then they go and react and have to eat it. And so this was my first lure that I picked up today when throwing, and I really wanted to come out here and catch fish on it today, but it didn't happen. And so like I said, I just didn't stick in throwing it. I threw a bunch of different lures as I'm about to go into. So I like to have a shallower to medium flat-sided crankbait for the winter, and this is my shallower one. Now, the deeper one that I threw today and caught fish with was the Berkley Fritz side. The Berkley Fritz side is a flat-sided crankbait. Now this is the Fritz side 7. It will go in that 5 to 7 foot depth range. Now this is one I like to throw around grass, but today, like I said, I'm fishing in a lake that has more rock, and I wanted just to throw this around and give it a chance because I know the fish here, I don't really think they see this lure that much. So like I said, this is my 5 to 7 foot diving crankbait. I caught a couple on this pretty early, and I really thought that this was going to happen. But then, like I said, after I kept throwing it, giving it a chance, it just really didn't put any better quality fish in the boat. The other crankbait that I like to throw this time of year in post-frontal conditions is a Spro rock crawler. I did not throw this today because the water visibility I was fishing was stained 1 to 3 foot. I really like to throw this in that clear water. Now, this will catch fish in stained water. It's just the colors that I have is the colors in my box I have is for clear water, and this actually will go deeper than those two lures. This here will go 9 to 12 foot, maybe even deeper if you can get a good cast with the right line. The gear that I was using for my crankbaits today, and that I like to use for my crankbaits, is 7/6 medium heavy crankbait rods. I have both the Denali Covert Light and the Denali Attack series that I'll use for both of my crankbaits that I threw today. Now, talking about one of my favorite lures I like to throw this time of year and catch fish on is a lipless crankbait. The lure that I was throwing today was the Oziri Rattling Vibe lipless crankbait, and this was in the golden black color. I like throwing the golden black color this time of year when I have cloudy conditions. So this lipless crankbait is a lure that's very versatile. Today for me, since I had 2 crankbaits that were in that 4 to 6 foot depth range, I was trying to throw this shallower. I'm not afraid to throw this up in 1 to 2 foot of water and bang it off the rocks and work it down those rock banks. Now, when the fish are deeper, when they get to that 4 to 8 foot range, I will throw this out there deeper, let it sink, and reel it back and work different retrieves. But for me today, knowing it's still early winter and we had all that rain yesterday, I really thought that there was going to be some fish up more shallower. And like I said, then they were shallow, but they just weren't up there on the bank. Like I said, it was taking a couple cranks, and either those fish are out there suspended coming up and eating, or they're right there behind them rocks. They're those post front lethargic fish, and when this goes right by them, they just cannot resist, and they react and eat it. My rod and line that I was using today for my lipless crankbait was a Denali Covert Light 7.2 crankbait rod. The 7.2 rod is a great rod to throw lipless crankbait with. One thing about these lipless crankbaits, and definitely this Yozuri one, is it casts really good. This one here is probably one of the better ones that will cast a good distance. And then with that, you need a good crankbait rod to be able to bring those fish in when they bite. Because like I said, sometimes they'll eat way out there, and then you got to bring them in. And one other little tip about these guys right here and any lipless crankbait, like I said, I made a far cast is, hey, go ahead and have your hook sharpener, sharpen these hooks. Like I said, that's something I learned a couple years ago. Don't be afraid to sharpen the hooks, because you're going to need them, because those fish might eat that dude way far off that cast, and you got to find a way to bring them in. Okay, so for my guys that are fishing shallower lakes, like I said, this is a Highland reservoir here, but it's 1 to 3 foot visibility, and I did throw this lure today. But for my guys that fish ponds, fish lakes, and just fish maybe them oxbows, one of the lures that I love to throw, I mean, it's a year-round lure, but it works really good in the post-frontal conditions, is a bladed jig. I have 2 bladed jigs right here. I have a box full of bladed jigs. First is just the original chatterbait. This right here, I think, is kind of a forgotten lure, because everybody's buying the jackhammers, buying these louder bladed jigs, you know, as I have right here. This is the slobber knocker that's came out and made a scene. But the original chatterbait still catches a lot of fish. Like I said, today I threw both of them and I didn't get bit, and so like it just was one of those things. Like I said, you gotta let the fish tell you what to throw. But for your ponds and oxbows, this is my #1 lure when fishing post-frontal conditions. Like I said, here's the slobber knocker. Like I said, I went with a green pumpkin with the red color. I don't know what they call it, but that green pumpkin red. And this one here was the white and chartreuse. So I was trying to mimic shad with this one. This one I was trying to mimic crawfish and brim. And so when you're fishing your ponds and your shallower lakes, these dudes right here, like I said, if I'm fishing a pond tomorrow, I'm throwing these. The Highland reservoirs, this time of year, that bite starts kind of going away. But if there was grass in this lake, oh, don't think I'm going to try to make this work. Thank you for watching today's video on Bass Fishing Declassified. Hopefully when the next cold front comes, you do not get discouraged, and you go out there with an open mind on throwing lures that will give you a chance to catch the lethargic fish with a reaction strike. If you have not, please like and subscribe to the new channel, as we're going to try to give you content so you can learn on how to fish multiple areas across the country from a bunch of different anglers. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.